respond before they're allowed in. They could just stay in the waiting room until they respond. And if not, they're not coming in. All right. And to the person that just joined, Muriel Evans, please state your name and your location, or you can just type in the chat and also include your phone number or email. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If you're able to, please rise and face the east for the Moorish American prayer. All right, please put your, please face the east, your feet at a 45-degree angle. Put your heels together, feet at a 45-degree angle. Hold 2 fingers up on the right and 5 on the left and repeat after me. Allah.
Allah.
Father of the universe.
Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night and by day.
By night and by day.
Through his holy prophet.
Through his holy prophet.
Drew Ali.
Drew Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
Islam.
Islam.
All right, I want to announce that the meeting is now open. First and foremost, we always rise and give the highest praise to the Father of the universe, Allah. In addition to that, we give honors to the prophet, our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us our divine creed and nationality. We give honors to the forerunner to the prophet, Brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We also give honors to all the Adab Sheiks and all the faithful Moors that make up the grand body of the Moorish divine and national movement. We give honors to the first appointed Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother E. Millie Ill, who was appointed by the prophet. Also give honors to the current Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother K. Dandridgel. Honors to the Grand Council of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Honors to all the L's and Bays out there. Islam, Islamism. Now, Brother Jackson Bey, could you please read the divine constitution and bylaws?
Islam, I rise in giving all praise. All praises due to Allah and all honors to the prophet we sent us, Drew Ali. Salvation, Allah, unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America. The Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the law or constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Noble Jew Ali, founder. Moorish American prayer, Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, Home Office of Noble Drew Ali, Home Office, Chicago, Illinois, United States of America. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism. All right, thank you, brother. Okay, we're gonna be reading from chapter 47 of the Holy Quran, and feel free to ask any questions you have, about that chapter, about what we're reading on, and then after that, the floor is open to questions people have in general. To the person on that LG stylo, can you please in the chat send your name, the one that says stylo 4, just send your name and location and phone number or email.
How do I do that?
Yeah, you have to. It's probably at the bottom where it says chat.
Oh.
All right.
Hold on.
All right. And also just going forward for the co-hosts, make sure like the person in the waiting room right now, make sure they respond with to a message, with in the chat with their name, location, and an email and phone number before they're allowed to come in. They should be able to see. I sent a message to everyone in the waiting room. So, do you have to enter before you can answer the message, the chat?
Islam, I don't even know how to do to send a message to the waiting room. I think we have to.
You can't?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Okay, so yeah, 2 people just came in. Okay, so all right. We'll get it together.
Man.
All right, Islam, to the 2 people that just joined, make sure you state your name, location, and share your phone number or email in the chat.
Chat one. I see it now.
All right. Islam, brother. Okay, so yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're in chapter 47 of the Holy Quran. And if you have questions about this, feel free to ask. And then after that, the floor will be open to questions in general. So as long as the questions are about the material we're going over, cool. Otherwise, just wait until we're done with this. Islam?
Islam.
All right. We're reading from chapter 47. This is Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. Okay, and you'll see from reading this that Egypt, okay, in this sense of how it's used in this chapter, talking about the past, it's not Egypt in the restrictive sense, right? This is, a wider perspective of what Egypt was. This Egypt in the restrictive sense would just be referring to the present nation state of Egypt, right, in Africa. Okay, and that's just a certain area. It's not necessarily the same area that would have been considered Egypt 2,000 years ago, just for example. Okay, and then going back 3,000 years, it would have been even larger, right? Sudan, all of these different places would have been considered Egypt as well. Okay, so just going back a couple thousand years, Egypt would have been larger than just this area that's on the screen, right? But when you go back far enough, you'll realize that the term Egypt wasn't referring to that at all. Egypt was actually a worldwide culture. It was a worldwide civilization. And it goes back so far that it's tying into when there was one language, even before we had all of these different continents and stuff that split apart. But we'll get into that. All right, so we're in chapter 47. All right, Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. All right, and this is from the Holy Koran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, as divinely prepared by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. Islam, to the person that just joined, make sure you type your name, location, and email or phone number in the chat. All right, his father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, and Ethiopia means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem. All right, and then in this, he's giving us a clue or a link back to our past, saying the dominion of Amexem. Amexem is the first true and divine name of Africa. Amexem. The dividing line, and he's saying the Ethiopia means the dividing line of the land between the Father and the Son. All right, and he was also letting us know the first true and divine name of Africa was Amexem. The dominions of Cush, Northeast and Southeast Africa, and Northwest and Southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In the later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. All right, the Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit Northwest Africa, they were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire. All right, and so that's important. He's saying the present Moroccan Empire. The Moabites from the land of Moab, they received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt, which means they're under the pharaoh, right? The pharaoh's their leader. Okay, the pharaohs of Egypt. Egypt, remember, I'm telling you, Egypt was a worldwide culture. So they're receiving permission to settle in a different portion of the empire, right? The dominions of Egypt. Okay, and they are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire. So we're talking about today, with the Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Their dominion extended from Northeast and Southwest Africa, across the Great Atlantis, even into the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands before the Great Earthquake, which caused the Great Atlantic Ocean. The river Nile was dredged and made by the ancient pharaohs of Egypt in order to trade with the surrounding kingdoms. Also, the Niger River was dredged by the great pharaoh of Egypt in those ancient days for trade, and it extends eastward from the river Nile, westward across the Great Atlantic, and it was used for trade and transportation. Okay, according to all true and divine records of the human race, there's no Negro, Black, or colored race. attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the holy land of Canaan. What your ancient forefathers were, you are today, without doubt or contradiction, right? And so we are, according to this, the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, because we are what our ancient forefathers were. There is no one who is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. All we have to do is realign ourselves with this. These holy and divine laws are from Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the uniting of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Okay, and so this is important because all of this information, this doesn't apply if you're not of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Remember, this is in the Holy Koran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. These laws are to be strictly preserved by the members. These are laws, okay? These laws are to be strictly preserved by the members of all the temples of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that they will learn to open their meeting and guide it in according to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and to create their own laws and customs in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple. I, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, was sent by the great God Allah to warn all Asiatics of America to repent from their sinful ways before that great and awful day that is sure to come, which we're living in now. The time has come when every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess its own. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the word Negro, Black, and Colored was given to the Asiatics of America who were of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their mother and father and strayed after the gods of Europe,
Hey, what's up?
whom they knew
What's
nothing.
going
Hang
on?
on one second.
How you doing? How you doing? What's up, man?
All right. Okay, so all right, when we're explaining the dominion, okay, and talking about how this this Egypt was a worldwide culture, and they're getting permission, you know, from the pharaohs to come over here and inhabit this land. You know, what it's explaining, we can actually see this in the ancient records. There's still records that have been preserved to this day that line up with this information that we have in our laws, right? In the Holy Quran. All right, this just this picture, you know, just giving everybody an idea, you know, of what it's talking about. This is key 32 from the Quran questionnaire. Where's the Moroccan Empire? Northwest of Mexum, right? i.e. Northwest Africa. What this is letting us know is that we're in Northwest Africa right now, right? Or Northwest of Mexum, because of Mexum was an ancient name, you know, an ancient and divine name for Africa. All right. And since all of this also was Egypt, Egypt was a worldwide civilization, another terminology for this land as well. This was a part of the dominions. This is how the Pharaoh was able to give permission to go and inhabit this land. You can see from just how this this map is put together, just showing how the continents fit together, how North America, South America would be considered Northeast and Southwest Africa. You can see how South America fits right under that, under West Africa, right? That's like Southwest Africa right there. And then you have Northwest Africa, which would be Florida and the East Coast. And this just happens to be where you have the Algonquin tribes who have obvious connections, obvious Moorish connections still to this day. Also the majority of whom still, you know, inhabitants like in New York, North Carolina, all up and down the East Coast, obviously, you know, brothers and sisters. Old Dirty Bastard, you know, from the Wu-Tang Clan, his great-grandfather was Paul Cuffey, and he was the last full-blooded chief of the Shinnecock Indians, right? And he was a brother. And so, you know, we still have that connection to this day. Also, the many of the tribes in that area were referred to as Moors, the Delaware Moors. I mean, the connection's obvious. And then you had the mound builders going all the way up from Louisiana on up through Ohio, pretty much following the whole Mississippi River, right? So you have the connections there, and it's obvious if you know where to look. But then you have physical records that have been preserved to this day that they're not teaching us about in school. You know, they didn't tell us that they found the scroll over here from the actual Olmec people, or the people who predated the Mayans, right? They had the scroll called the Toronto Stone, or the Toronto manuscript, which wasn't, it was one of the ones that didn't get destroyed. It was smuggled over to Europe, and it's in the museum in London. And in that story, or in that script, the people described the deluge, they described the floods, they described basically a cataclysm that caused some of the lands to sink under the water, and then some of the lands to rise up. And they described their people being separated, you know, and this is the people who lived in Central America, in Belize, Mexico, in that area. These were the pyramid builders, all right? And so we have records that's thousands of years old that's been translated that nobody can refute, you know, because these are eyewitness accounts of the people describing what Prophet Noble Drew Ali relinked us to, okay? And so you can't take any of this stuff lightly. There's a lot of other links too, you know, that tie us in. They even tie the so-called Indians of North America in as well to the people of Central and South America, in particular for the mound builders. And read something for you from Antiquities of America. Basically, they have a plate from an Aztec priestess showing a headdress that's strikingly Egyptian. Even the obelisk of Egypt have their counterpart in America. Quoting from Molina, there's a pillar of stone, 150 feet high, 12 feet in diameter, between the hills of Mendoza, La Punta. This is in Central America. And it's a four-sided obelisk, just like what would be found in Egypt. And this was found over here in Central America, all right? There's also another stone sculpture that looks just like the Ankh. It's the same shape and everything, found in Mexico. And so, you know, the link is there and it's indisputable. And in addition to that, they have the link from the people from the Mississippi River, Louisiana, that are connected to those people in Central America, right? Read something else from North America's antiquity, saying that people advanced up the Mississippi River, spread out over its tributaries. The chief characteristic of the mound builders was the great structures of earth or stone, not unlike the pyramids of Mexico and Egypt. Some of you may already know, between East St. Louis and Alton, there's a great mound called Cahokia, right? It rises 97 feet high with square sides. They're 700 and 500 feet respectively. And they're saying that like the area of the mound with all the earth and stone that they used, that it's about just as large as the greatest pyramid of Egypt, which is Cheops. It's not as tall. And then there's thousands of monuments left by the mound builders in Ohio. It's pretty much a ton of evidence linking the people, showing that this is the same people and that they're going all the way back to ancient Egypt. So this was a worldwide culture. And it's extremely important to recognize that, respect that. This is what the prophet tied us back into. With the government structure that the prophet brought us, returning us to a constitutional theocratic monarchy, he returned us to the same type of government that the ancient Egyptians had. The government of ancient Egypt was theocratic, right? And reading from Freemasonry of the Ancient Egypt by Manly P. Hall, he's saying the government of ancient Egypt was theocratic. While the pharaoh appeared to be the head of state, the priests were the actual governors of the empire. Okay, and this is the same thing that we have, where we have a head, we have a supreme grand sheik, we have a supreme grand council, and then our priests, our sheiks, okay, are the actual lawmakers. That's the legislators, the grand sheik and assistant grand sheik and the grand governors. Okay, so this is something divine that we will return to. We're not just throwing this out there saying returning to our ancient forefathers' ways. This is real. Okay, it's legit. And this is something that he put out in 1928, where this definitely was not common knowledge. All right, so it's extremely important to put that. I just wanted to put that kind of in the proper perspective so that it's understood that this wasn't like something just to scoff at. He's returning us to something, and something that's ancient and divine, and something that just wasn't common knowledge at that point in time. It's easy to overlook this stuff just, with the internet and all the information that's floating on around, out there. But, it's pretty powerful. And so if anybody wants to speak on that chapter, feel free to speak up, especially if you have any questions. Islam. Okay, so if we good on that, I'm gonna go ahead and just open up the floor. I know there's some people online that have some questions. Feel free to speak.
Okay, hello.
Islam.
All right, so you saying the topic can be of our choice, so to speak?
Yeah.
All right, well, so it's a question, but I guess it's like a word of advice, so to speak, or wanting some advice on a situation. So I didn't really know about the Moorish Science Temple of America or anything dealing with Moors until like, let me see, until like 2018 maybe. And when I was getting brushed up on it, I was, we was reading from the Quran. We was reading about Noble Drew Ali, and I think with some other studies, some general studies that we had, like spiritual knowledge and stuff. But the brother who was doing, because he has his nationality card and everything. I think he's been nationalized since he was like a little boy. But I don't know if it's because of the way he's on paper, but I don't think he has a job and stuff. So he uses the knowledge that he has, and he basically charged people. So he was charging me to teach me jurisprudence and also knowledge dealing with understanding the prophet. And when I found out what he was doing, especially with the studies not really being 100%, like, cutting it up, just trying to get more money and stuff. Once I found out, I kind of got hurt. And I was like, dang, I don't know what to believe, or what to do, who can I trust, stuff like that. So I was just wanting some advice on that, on what I should do, if whether or not if that's normal, things like that. Just some input on it.
All right. Okay. All right. In general, like with as far as the Moorish Science Temple of America, this is what we teach. I mean, we like what we just read. We teach the Quran, which is basically the whole first half of the Quran is spiritual, getting you in alignment with how to connect to your higher self, how to walk and dwell in your higher self, so that you can be back in the mind state of your ancestors. The second half is kind of explaining our culture and society, how to conduct ourselves, and our connection to our ancestors. How we are Moors, or where we came from, like what I just read. Okay, and then with the temple, what the temple does, in addition to that, we work on building up our economic system. Working to get land and and to do everything that we need to do, so that we grow our own food. We have to participate in politics. We can't act like we don't have to do that. Do those things, right? So all of the other stuff like secure party creditor and all that, if people want to do that, that's on them. But that's we not teaching that over here. We don't all even mess with that stuff because it's iffy and it doesn't even work for all of us because first off, if you're doing it, you got a target on your back because somebody who's European might be able to do it and they might be able to talk themselves out of, situations that you can't because you got a target on your back because the police, might not be as polite and patient dealing with you as they would with them. And that's real because I seen some Europeans in the car and they getting pulled over and they're I don't know if they were standing on right to travel or what, but they were saying a whole bunch of stuff and the cop just let them go. And then I seen the brother trying to do the same thing and he gets jacked up, And so, I mean, all of that stuff, it's on you. If you want to do that, that's on you. It has nothing to do with this demo. I'm not going to talk bad about it. I'm just saying, if you want to be out there doing that, you're on your own because there's no it's not even organized. It's not even the people promoting it are well, let's like the NRA, let's start a group and everybody donate this much so that we got, legal funds and whatever else they need. It's just so that it's organized so that we can work together. If something's not working, you could call the number and speak to. They don't have nothing. It's just every man for himself. And I don't mess with that stuff. And then people's getting stuff off the internet and trying to sell it, and you can get this stuff for free now. All the information out there.
Yeah. That's what he was doing. He was it's I didn't know how to feel about it. I mean, because when you have knowledge, information, and you give it to somebody for free, sometimes they won't appreciate it, as you know what I'm saying. But when you charge them for it, it kind of somehow makes them pay attention to it more, things like that. So he had went through a phase where he wasn't charging people, then he started charging, and then with me, understanding him, trying to be a good Moor, so to speak. I was like, okay, you ain't trying to knock me over the head for the classes. It is legit information. But at the same time, I was asking him to also help me eradicate some things that he said the information would help me do. Things like that. And but after a while, it just seemed like he wasn't really trying to steer me correctly. It's like somebody teaching their student in such a way where they feel like that student is gonna take their clients or something. That's how I felt. He just sugarcoat certain things or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if he wasn't even a part of a temple or nothing either.
But that's the one thing with that, dwelling in that realm, what people do, they try to act like you dumb for asking questions, especially if they don't have the answer, and they could just get away with that because that's how everybody acted. Oh, you don't know? Well, you need to study harder, And it's crazy. And then I wouldn't do any of that unless the person who's trying to teach it is successful. It's let me see how it's working for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's nah, ain't nobody successful with it. It's a lot of people that teach that, and I'm just saying, man, I don't see anybody doing good with it, so I ain't rocking with it.
Yeah,
that's what works, man.
That's what my brother told me. He was that person needs to be holding themselves in a better condition than where they're in. And see, the thing about it too is I guess you could say he was my friend or whatever. So but I felt like he was keeping a lot of secrets that was keeping me from actually being able to possibly help him in an even better way. But it was just a whole cluster, so to speak, pardon my language, but it was a whole mess. So I was like, dang, okay, well, what do I do now? Or, it just kind of hit me some type of way. But I'm past it now, and I'm glad I'm attending this video. I just wanted to get that out there because I didn't know if anybody else experienced that, running into, so to speak, dirty Lord.
Islam. I can talk from experience. Yeah, it's a lot of different things going on, but it's all divine. If this pushed you, how I looked at it was, it pushed me to explore it more. It's obvious that his enemies out there trying to, that's has a different agenda. Everybody's got a job to do, so it's not.
That's true.
All right, brother Hakam had his hand up. Hakam Bey.
Well, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was just gonna make a quick reference that as far as with me in Middletown, Ohio, is probably like me and brother King Jael, and it feels like almost like we're trying to intercept a nation is being deceived, and I understand that. But I also understand, and in reference to what the brother was just saying, it's just a matter of understanding that life comes in parables, and a triangle, a circle, and a square all equal 360 degrees. So with all of those things equaling 360 degrees, I understand that my way of life and understanding and teachings and preachings may not be the same as yours, but it still equals up to the same 360 degrees that you are trying to conquer. And if you haven't conquered the 360 degrees by the way of your math, I do feel like that the Moorish Science Temple can help you, but I don't try to intimidate or make it like, oh, well, you gotta do this with anyone. I let that be their own choice, and I feel good with my own sanity with doing such. So with that being said, brother, long as you know what it is and you keep your nose to the ground and you know you're doing your best to try to bring out the best in them, brother, I'm gonna say just keep on digging and keep on going. I mean, because I know what it is, and everybody practice Islam is not practicing Islamism. And you might have to understand what Islam and Islamism is to understand the difference, but Islam and Islamism is two totally different things, and Islam and Islam is two totally different things in itself. And one, like I said a couple weeks back, if you type in Quran, which is Quran, and you type in definition on a Google bar, on a Safari bar, or a Siri, and it type in, when it give you the definition back, it's going to switch the Q to a K. And that right there is just pretty much self-explanatory in itself. And that's what we read, and that's what we practice, Islam. And I'm grateful because I understand what my prophet did for me, and I understand what he's doing still actively, and I know that he's not gone. So, I that's why I practice Islamism, and that's why I got part of the temple. And everyone that practices Islam is not part of a temple. That's why I said it's the difference between Islam and Islamism. So we have to understand that, and therefore, when you're talking to someone that's practicing Islam and not Islamism, the reasoning has to understand what all they understand, and that's part is on us, because if you don't study Christianity and you're trying to talk to a Christian, then you're kind of losing yourself already. If you don't practice Buddhism and you're trying to talk to a Buddhist, you're losing yourself already. So truth be told, we understand this is better for us, so we feel, but if we're trying to make it congruent to someone that doesn't practice what we practice, we have to make sure that each line is equivalent with the last one. Islam.
Islam. Praises to Allah. Honors to his prophet, Noble Drawley. Honors to all you Moors in attendance. I just want to add just a little bit to the dialogue that what the brother was just saying is like, you have to meet people where they are. Islam, like, everybody's at a different level in life. So once you're ready, to surpass the level where you are, you're ready to, level up, like I like to call it. It's up to you to choose your path. Islam.
Yes, Islam.
All right, Islam. Yeah,
So
does
that's not
anybody go ahead, go ahead.
I'm gonna say this last thing, and then if nobody else speak, then I'll bring up my next topic. So is it not technically I guess you would say unrighteous for a person to charge someone for information that is free? Obviously, when it comes to the Moorish Scientific of America and Moorish science and like like learning certain things like astrology, gardening, whatever like that, or even more about the about our nationality and stuff. Like if somebody is teaching jurisprudence, like how to actually go about getting your nationality, understanding how you connect to being a Moor, things like that. Like if somebody's charging for this information
Islam.
and they're Moor,
Nationality is
is that
free. You shouldn't have to pay. Like, for
Nationality is
real, you come into the temple and you learn in degrees, and if you ran into this brother and he has a whole setup where he's hustling pretty much, because
yeah,
he has a nationality card, but he's not in the temple. So what he's doing, he's hustling, he's taking the information that he may or may not even understand fully. He's just taking stuff probably off the internet and selling it, to brothers and sisters trying to make a buck. And that's wrong. But you know what? I mean, karma's gonna catch up with him. You ain't gotta worry about him with all that. You just gotta, now that you see the game you was playing, and now that you're on this call with us, and you see we meet twice a week. We don't charge. This information, we're all students, we're all learning and studying and practicing what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought to us. Islam.
Peace. Yeah. Can I just add on that real quick? Hello?
Islam.
yes,
All right. Yeah, so basically, in reference to what the brother was saying earlier, as far as whoever was out there teaching, charging people for information, at the end of the day, you're absolutely correct. I literally just had this conversation about an hour ago with one of the brothers that I know from the lodge, and he actually made a video, trying to discredit the Moorish Science Temple of America, and was trying to say that it was fake masonry and this, that, and the third. But what a lot of people misunderstand and sometimes forget is that just because some people hold things closer to their heart when they feel like they had to work for it. You see what I'm saying? Like some people like the glitz and the glamour and stuff like that, and they like the complexity and the sophistication. You see what I'm saying? Behind the allegory. You feel me? Throughout the lessons when they're given to certain students or initiates, but they forget that the same moral lessons that they're getting, you see what I'm saying, from these different degrees that they got to pay $100 per degree for. You see what I'm saying? That you're actually still getting the same thing. You feel me? That lies within the chapters. You feel me? Of the Circle 7 of the MSTA event. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, there's going to be certain people who have to go up the ladder and pay all of that money and get burned out. For them to actually double back and realize, okay, hold up a second, I'm paying all of this money for this. And then when they go back and open back up the Circle 7 and stuff like that again, or any religious book, they'll hopefully at some point in time in their life realize that they spent all of that money, you see what I'm saying, for nothing. We also have to realize at the same time, you see what I'm saying, that Islamism is something that's being that's in action. You see what I'm saying? Islam itself, you see what I'm saying, is the destination. You know what I'm saying? It's the destination that we're all trying to reach. You feel me? To be at complete peace with ourselves, with everybody else, and everything else around us. You see what I'm saying? So we can be in harmony, you see what I'm saying, with our fellow brothers and sisters on this planet, as well as the universe at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Whatever, you know what I'm saying, whether people use the Circle 7 as their primary source for their lessons, moral lessons, whether it's the Holy Koran and Mecca, whether it's the Bible, you see what I'm saying? It doesn't make a difference. You know what I'm saying? All of those different things have healing power. So therefore, you see what I'm saying? Those different things, you see what I'm saying, can be considered Islamism as well. You see what I'm saying? Now how we express it, you see what I'm saying? Our understanding of what it is that we're getting, you see what I'm saying, is a whole nother conversation. but we can't draw lines of separation between ourselves and other people in greater Islamic communities, as well as the other Buddhist communities or whatever. You see what I'm saying? At the end of the day, there's certain things that people are going to get, you know what I'm saying, from these different religions who might not be nowhere near close to what we would accept or identify as Islam to be, but they can still be on the right track as far as keeping the house together. And sometimes they'll be your, you know, greatest allies, man. And they might not ever step foot in the temple, but you know, I just wanted to put that out there.
I appreciate that, brother.
Islam, and you know, appreciate you for sharing that. I just want to say, man, everybody out here ain't cool. You know, you definitely need to watch yourself. You know, with the temple, like the sister was saying, we don't charge it. You know, we teach, we hit uplift. The temple has $20 a month dues. You know, it's pretty much affordable for everybody because that's what the prophet intended. So nobody's supposed to be trying to take this information and sell it for some racks or something and try to make, you know, extra money. There's some dude out here that's selling, like, telling people he can get them diplomatic immunity, you know, and it's like ridiculous because it's like, it don't work. That's why I was saying you need to see it working for these people before you even take them seriously. And then if they're doing something like that, then that means you can't trust them. You know, if somebody's doing something that shows that they're untrustworthy, I'm not dealing with them anymore, you know, because of how they're moving. You know, that's crazy. And so, you know, yeah, like, and that secure party creditor, all that stuff, that has nothing to do with being a Moor. Anyone can do it. That's why I say if you want to study it, go for it. That's on you, though. You know, whether you can make it work or not, because, like, you know, Europeans doing it, all types of people are. It has nothing to do with the demo. People are mixing it in with it, but it still don't have anything to do with the, you know, with what the prophet brought, with the society that he established. He relinked us with what we were just saying. He relinked us to something ancient and then created something new out of it, right? Moorish American is a nationality. We have a legitimate society. It was a religious organization, but the way that he moved put it into the, activated the body politic side of it when he established this in Cook County under Heard's revised statute. You know, he went to the Pan American Conference, announced himself. He was recognized as the head of state for our people. Okay. And since he moved this way and set up an economy, you know, self-sustaining economy and these things, it was recognized as a nation, a legitimate nation. Now we have to pick up the pieces and come in and move like that. All right. So that we can get out of the labels that have been placed on us that will keep us getting abused. That, you know what I'm saying? Black people's right to votes get renewed every 2 decades. You know, these are ridiculous scenarios that show that the Black, the African-American, is still the same thing as Negro. Negro was created and it was something that they removed from the family of humans on paper. You know, it's in that Negro Act. It's in all of these things and it's still in there and it still applies. So he got us out of that. And everybody else moved away from it. They didn't do nothing with it. That's how come the people still suffering to this day. So at the end of the day, that's what it's really about. You know, still working, opening business, doing the things we need to do, but moving as a unit, as Moorish Americans within this society, right? And then all of that other stuff, hey, man, if people want to experiment with their lives to see if it could work, go for it. I'm not going to do it because, like, you know what I'm saying? I can't. I want to win. I'm not trying to experiment like that. You know what I'm saying? But that also has nothing to do with the demo. It's understandable how we are to work and make it move. It's like you don't have to be like a genius to understand it. But to understand some of that stuff, you got to be like a genius. You got to be like really well studied because it's not like A plus B equals C or 1 + 2 = 3. It's not like that. It's like you got to just study and keep going deeper and deeper to understand how that could work. And I'm talking about like all the paperwork and stuff that people's pushing. It's hard. It's difficult to follow. But like starting businesses, practicing group economics, you know what I'm saying? Moving as a unit, looking out for ourselves first. That's not really, I could follow that. You know what I'm saying? You see how that works.
And I agree with you. Okay, so because I'm not trying to repeat the same things. Just that it's a little bit scattered in my mind. So I'm just trying to get some, like I said, some alleviation for it. So how this happened was one day I attended a class. He called it the conscious class, and in the class, as we were talking about a lot of science and bringing up nationality, and the way he was explaining it to the class, he was basically saying, okay, you get your name correction, and you reclaim your estate and things like that, making it sound as if when a person becomes naturalized, that whatever stuff that they had, whether it been credit, debt, having to pay a mortgage, stuff like that, like he made it seem like a lot of that was going to be, kind of like none and voided or something, or none and void. And I was just like, okay, if that's how it works, then yeah, okay, I guess I can go ahead and get the nationality thing, Then he, brought up it being $50, stuff like that. But the way he was explaining it, and like you said, I didn't see it active in his life to fully believe it or accept it, but just the way that it hit my spirit, a lot of the information, I was like, okay, this seems like it's real, I don't know, basically in a sense, he definitely was using magic or whatever like that on me, because he took advantage at the fact that, or he, not even really just me, but anybody, he's taking advantage of somebody's ignorance and the fact of what they're in, the situation they're in, and basically letting them know, hey, you can get out of this. It can be easier for you. You don't deserve this. You're connected to the Christian black codes of 1724, things like that. And that's what's like making it where you have to struggle. And then, you're getting away from the laws, from what I'm saying? Making it seem like, okay, yeah, this is what this person needs to go to. And then it don't really be like, I don't know. It seemed like a person still has to do work. It's just that now maybe the work is valued better, like it's towards something better, or I don't know.
Hey,
All
can
right,
y'all
so
hear
look.
me on here?
Islam, we can hear you.
All right, good. Islam Mose. My question was about Noble Drew Ali's last days, because I learned that back when I was 14, but I kind of need a reminder because I'm having trouble finding my Koran, which I actually had somewhere around here, but I can't find it. I need a reminder about Noble Drew Ali's last days.
All right. Can you share your name, location? Name
All
and
right,
location.
man. Name is Lawrence, and I'm over here in Boston, Massachusetts.
Lawrence?
Yeah.
All right. And you wanted to know about Noble Drew Ali's last days?
Yes, as he had mentioned within the Quran.
All right, because that's kind of general. Like, what is it?
You talking about like the last days in time? Are you talking about? He's saying in the Quran?
Are you talking about the end time prophecy? What you talking about?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
The end time prophecy, right?
Yeah, man.
All right. Okay. For the most part, you have some sayings that were passed down orally, like the prophet said that he said that basically the machines, the economic system would slow down or almost come to a halt, and when it would start back up, it'll be back in the hands of the Asiatics. We don't really teach that in here because these are oral statements, and we can't really verify everything if it's actually coming from the prophet or not. We pretty much just stick to the Quran, all right, and the Quran questionnaire, the different material that we have, all right, the things that we can verify. So, we don't really teach that stuff.
All right, Mo. I just wanted to make sure because I wanted to say this. I was noticing what was going around. I was like, this does sound like Noble Drew Ali's policy of the last days, but anybody who's really conscious, that it's just an age of Aquarius shift. That's what the plan naturally does. Some things got to get destroyed, or, they got to get rid of or make some things anew. Doesn't have to be a super catastrophe, but you're going through a shift right now. If you ain't really in tune with yourself, then you just got to go. Like, that's really it. And I was wondering if you guys are going to go into that policy, because a lot of these moles out here, They always be talking about this Noble Drew Ali thing, but they don't even understand what Circle 7 is. And some of these guys here are just some phonies, because always be asking them about Noble Drew Ali's last days. They can't even recite that to me. Because some of them say the same thing as you, is orally, or they just don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have the oral statements. And the thing is, some of the oral statements are coming from people who said they were the prophet reincarnated. We don't know if it's from the prophet Noble Drew Ali. I don't even really want to get into all that, but for those who don't understand, know what I'm talking about, there's like 200 statements, and then over time, I think like another 100 were added to it, you know? And so we don't know if this came from research, people actually talking to people who were alive in that time, who passed it down, or just people adding stuff to it over time because they thought it was cool. And so that's why I'm saying we can't stand on that. You can't stand on that. It's not good enough. Now, I can mention it, but anytime I mention it, I'm going to say allegedly because I can't stand on it. You know what I'm saying? Right. Does that make sense? Like, we can't teach it because that's not what he set forth. He didn't set that forth, right? But that doesn't mean it's not true. It's just that, you know, it is what it is. It's not it's not certain. We have to stand on something strong. Can't stand on quicksand.
I get it. You gotta stand strong on your square, man. That's what's up. That's what you have to do. You gotta stand strong on your square. You have to.
Put it like this, man. We just stand on love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and we'll be good regardless.
The 5 principles on that Moorish flag.
Islam.
Right.
All right. The brother Hakan Bey had his hand up. We could come back to you, but I see the brother had his hand up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was just want to let you know that if you are intellectually talking to a brother that you know is a brother, and that you be like, all right, what peace and love, Mo, that's one thing. But if a brother is addressing himself as a Mo and not understanding that he is a Moor, that's something totally different. See, because at that point in time, you will have to understand himself. And if he don't understand himself, the information that he could possibly push off onto you will be conflicting to what you could even think that a Mo means, because we will say Mo and think that it means more, but the truth be told, more means more. So when we say Mo, we got to understand that that's slang, and that's like actually like, yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I understand that. I understand.
Associating
we really got to study what's called ETYMONOLOGY.
Etymology. I understand etymology. There's a reason why I say Mo, because see, I fall under the Black Peace Stone teachings, and they address themselves as Moors or Moes. And Moes is just something short for Moor. They spell it M-O, not M-O-E, because they say that's something completely different. As not one of these cats out here that be over in D.C., they say Mo, but don't even know what that means. So when I say Mo, I know where it's exactly coming from. Not one of these, like I said, fakes out here that just be saying this stuff and don't know what it means. Like how I just previously mentioned, you can go up to some of these Moors, ask them what their Circle 7 means. They don't even know what that is. They don't even know what the acronym Islam is or religion Islamism. I, self-law, and master. They don't even know that neither.
Okay. Can I say something real quick?
That's just why I wanted to just let you know. That's why I said that the brothers, we got to understand that even when we say the terminology of Mo, even when we use that terminology, we got to understand the person, the individual that we are even talking to. Because if not, then we're even putting derogatory slang onto the word more. You feel me?
All right. So I just wanted to add on to what both of y'all were saying, real quick. I think what happens with us a lot of times, we get too caught up in things that doesn't really like matter too much. You feel me? Like a lot of times we start getting into arguments and stuff like that. And, you know, I will break this down and break that down and give you the essence and behind this. What's this symbol mean and where does this come from or whatever? And we forget sometimes that at the end of the day, when it comes to the development, you see what I'm saying, of one's you feel me, spirit self, the essence of who they are to make them a better person. Sometimes that's not necessary. You know what I'm saying? This is what it was for at the end of the day. You feel me? To get us up out of to dig us up out of the grave so we can stop acting like savages. At the end of the day, the knowledge that Noble Drew Ali gave the people during his time, you see what I'm saying, the moral lessons that he gave us within the Circle 7, you see what I'm saying, were held, you see what I'm saying, in the lodges of the Masons. It wasn't readily available to the public. All that other stuff, like the acronyms and stuff like that, all that stuff came later, man. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, understanding what nationality is and its function, you feel me, within the person, you see what I'm saying, it's supposed to raise your level of moral integrity, you see what I'm saying? Raise your awareness within self so you can move about, you know what I'm saying, carrying yourself in a different manner. So that way you can connect with people who look like you see what I'm saying, to fill that void of self-hatred, you see what I'm saying, to replace it with love now. You see what I'm saying? So you can have a sense of pride within yourself. And when you see somebody who look like you don't see a nigga, you see somebody else. So, okay, yeah, that's a brother just like I am because he's a Moorish American, or subconsciously in your mind, whether they agree to the Moorish American, you feel me, nationality or accepting themselves as being a Moor, you see what I'm saying? You see something more than just a nigga, you see what I'm saying, or another black man or a black woman or whatever the case may be. That's what it's for. We can talk about the business and we can talk about, you know what I'm saying, economics and stuff like that all we want, but we don't have that bond, you see what I'm saying, with amongst one another by sharing something, that by having a common thread such as a national identity or a nationality, you see what I'm saying, you would forget all of that. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like I wouldn't even bother, you see what I'm saying, you know, if somebody doesn't know the signs behind the symbols and stuff like that, there's no point of even bringing it up. At the end of the day, are they living their life right? Are they willing to give you a hand if you need help? That's the more important question that we need to start focusing on.
Now, I also want to get into etymology real quick because here goes the thing about the word Moor. Because I'm hearing from some Moors, they're saying that it doesn't mean black, and some of them, they're teaching that it means black. Like, what's the truth of it? Because here goes the problem with the word black. For one, it's a color, it's not a nationality. And now some of these fake deep people are saying black really means to bleach to white from a Germanic etymology. But everybody knows etymology at times is very useful, is always very useful, but at the same time is biased because it only go to Germanic and Latin words. Because a lot of these same words, they're used differently over the world, especially within the African community, and they mean something different. Like black, say for example, the word Kemet, that legit means black community. In ancient Kemites, black was something good. Didn't mean to whiten, didn't mean to curse, and nothing like that. That's more of a European concept. Black is bad, white is good. So that's my problem with this whole etymology thing. So these Moors don't even know what they're talking about. And now they got me confused as to what the word Moor means. Because now they're saying it don't mean nothing, it just means black. Now they're saying, no, that's not true. Moor doesn't mean black.
Islam.
You want to know what Moor means?
I definitely could
pick up Gerald Massey's book. Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna let you go ahead and do your thing. If you want to know what Moor means, you know what I'm saying, pick up Gerald Massey's book. You know what I'm saying, the Book of Beginners, Volume 2, the last chapter, the ancient African origins of the Moabites, I believe. You see what I'm saying, and he breaks down. You see what I'm saying, how the evolution of the 6th century word that we all know to be as Moor descended and came from, you see what I'm saying, the ancient times, you see what I'm saying, was actually meant to fulfill. You see what I'm saying, it actually meant like north, south, and different things like that, Makru or whatever, and different variations of the word. And he also says that it was the name Moor, you see what I'm saying, that became popular, you know, the term that we're used to seeing now that became popular in the 6th, 7th century, you see what I'm saying, those people named themselves that. You see what I'm saying? So that was squash that whole thing about Europeans naming us Moor and that and all that stuff like that. The word black didn't exist past the word in its earliest form past the year 1100. You see what I'm saying? That's something new. So it doesn't mean that.
All right, then just want to make sure. Because like I said, a lot of these fakes out here, they're trying to teach it, and now they just mess up the whole information.
Yeah, the Moor, we all know is an ancient word to, you know, don't even get yourself, you know, confused, you know what I mean, even dealing with certain things. After you do your own research, you understand what Moor is, and Moor is an ancient word. It's even, you know, on the hieroglyphs, you know, meaning the high priest of Anu, you know, and if you look at, if it was on the hieroglyph in Egypt, but Anu was a Mesopotamian god, but it was on the hieroglyphs of Egypt, you feel me? But Mesopotamian and their gods, pre-existed the Egyptian gods, that word is very old. And you also have to realize, just be thankful that it's like temples like, or missions like us, like Temple 30, and we standing on what the prophet brought. You feel me? So you just gotta kind of, you hear what they say, and you gotta understand one thing. And I'll leave you with something out of chapter 26, and it's the instructions on unity. You gotta understand this. The science of happiness is the study of his life, or one's life. So, we all out here trying to study and trying to, understand that. So don't get too wrapped up in, foolishness that you might hear, because people just trying to, they trying to explain life for themselves. But understand, when it comes to this whole Moorish thing, the prophet, Noble Drew Ali, if it wasn't for him, divinely prepared and guided by Allah, we wouldn't know what a Moor was. So we pay honors and come to the temple for all the information, and come, to better understand, because what he provided for the Asiatics of North America, of Moorish descent, is a way to freely express ourselves, our religious expressions, really do it unbiased, unmolested. And we just got to come into the temple and learn it, you feel me, before we go in and trying to find somebody. And Prophet Drew Ali himself said his lessons aren't to be sold, they to be straight up told, you know what I mean? So like, it's a distinction, like everybody been telling you, you got to hear, and just off the certain things, if they don't know a word out this Quran, it's confusion, and you should just leave them alone, because everybody's out here studying their life. So, just words of the wise, Islam. I'll leave it like that, Islam.
All right, man, it's Wham. Now,
one thing you have to be really careful with the word black. You said something about Kemet, meaning the land of the blacks. Egypt had several names. One name is Ta-Mare. The word black doesn't really matter what we think it means. It's been defined to be something that's removed from the family of humans. This Negro Law is from 1740, and it just shows the term Negroes confined to slave Africans. But we still see that in today, in the terminology, the way that description is used for black or African American is still the only thing, according to this SF 181 form. It's the only ethnic category that is defined by itself, defined by the same adjective, black. Everything else on here, it comes from an original people or somewhere. American Indian, original people, North, South, Central America, Asian, original people of different places in Asia, white, original peoples of Europe, Middle East, North Africa, Pacific Islander, everyone except for black. Black is from the black racial groups of Africa. That means it's not connected to an original people. They can't be as overt as they were in 1740. It's sneaky now, and that's how come black is still a slave status. And that's why you have to self-define yourself. You have to remove yourself from that. You cannot go along with that. And so, no, Moor does not mean black. Moor is something ancient. Moor is actually tying you back in to an ancient civilization. It was a worldwide civilization. Egypt was a worldwide civilization. And, Egypt had several names. Moor is one of the names that we have for our ancient people. And no, it doesn't tie you in as a black person, because even that name Moor was used in ancient Egypt, and it was even used in different regions of the world. Okay, so, it doesn't limit you even to just one area. All right. And so, you by tying yourself back into that, by taking on the customs and cultures that we have, you have people in the ancient Americas wearing fezzes and turbans. All right. This ties you back into that. That's why what the prophet did was powerful. That's why we are doing this. Is why we are teaching this, to help wake our people up. So to say that means black like that, that would be like saying that you are removed from the family of humans, because it's still defined that way. This is what they defined it as legally, and by us going along with it still in this present day, you're still keeping yourself in in an inferior position. And so, I don't advise anybody to go along with that. I don't advise anyone to let anyone else define what more means to you. I don't care what anyone comes along saying what it means right now or tomorrow or the day after. This is what it means, what we say it means. All right. And so nobody can define it. Nobody can say, Moor means black, Moor means brown. I don't care what they say, they're wrong. Moor means you are descended from the creators of civilization. period. You're looking up the term El and Bay, these ancient Canaanite terms. This dates back thousands of years on the record. You know, for the most part, the L's and the Bays, okay, were defined as the progenitors of humanity. Okay.
One of 5 civilized tribes.
All right, and I'm actually looking in the ancient Phoenician, looking at it from an ancient Phoenician perspective. But it's tying you back into something that's ancient, that predates, you know, everything. It, you know, predates prehistory or whatever. You know, this is something that ties you into the creators of civilization, legitimately. All right, and so nah, man, you can't. No, I wouldn't put any color or any type of, you know, limitation on that. You know, and it's defined by what we define it as.
Islam.
Right?
Islam. To add to that, Douglas L. And if any more, right? Any person calling themselves more tell you that they black or that means black, no, they wrong, because the prophet, without the prophet, we wouldn't even know we were Moors. And in Act 6 of our divine constitution, I'll read you an excerpt, like it go ... and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasting until 1865 during the time of slavery. So if they don't even know that little bit, man, you know what I mean? You feel me? And everybody know that. I'm talking about everybody knows that. That's a key word. You know, that's a key thing to anymore. So if they saying they black, who's right? Yeah, you got to come to the temple, baby. Islam. You got it, Douglas.
Right. Now, my other question is about the Moorish American community, is the fact that I see somewhat of unity, but my thought was, okay, if you guys, quote unquote, know about these laws and all that, and this is something I've been wondering since I was 14 years old, why don't you come together and then try to do something for all these black folk within America? And really, it's not that simple, because you have to change the mentalities. Like over down in Chicago, when I was back home down there, you see a lot of these Mo's, they're not what they used to be anymore. A lot of them are just unconscious. And all of them know about those stones and how they try and teach them about the Moorish heritage, but then they don't give a shit. It's just, they just dumb, deaf, and blind. 185%, dumb, deaf, and blind.
1 second, bro. Are you, you know, I say if you aware of this, why don't you assist in helping to raise up your brothers and sisters?
That's why I do. That's all you can
do, really. Like, listen,
Yeah.
1 second, like, because we limited on time. We don't really focus on the downside of it and go, because we could go on and on about how pitiful it is, how bad it is, and how they all against us, and we ain't gonna do. No, we don't do that, man. We're winners. All right, we know that all is mine. So we focus on what we can do. We focus on the solution, and that's what we move on. And then, you know, that's why I had to cut you short, because we can't go on about how they're not doing this and that. That's gonna get us stuck in a never-ending cycle of complaining and talking about how they can't do it. We don't do that. I can't even give any more energy towards that subject. We got to move on now, because we can't talk about the negative stuff. All is mine, right? All is mine.
Yes.
Okay, so we move forward. We focus on the solution, and even if it's just a small goal that you can reach, that's what you do, and then we move on that and take it to the next level.
Yes,
right? And so yeah, that's what we do. You know, with members, we have business meetings every Thursday. We set a goal and then we reach it, and we keep doing that. And before you know it, I mean, if you look back a year later, you know, you've actually accomplished a lot, even though the goal seems small. You know, when you can only take small steps towards your towards what you're really trying to accomplish. You know, if people are setting the goals all big and huge, you're gonna try to do it and it's gonna fail. And then you're going to be disheartened and not want to do it anymore. You set small goals, and that's, you know, that's just how you win. That's how you accomplish things. And that's what we're setting out to do, you know, Islam. And so does anybody else have any questions or any statements, anything they want to add?
Yes, if the floor is clear, I'd like to say that right now I'm in Dallas, Georgia, which, for those who don't know, it's close to Atlanta. And I was looking for a temple or someone to connect with to, to grow basically. But someone to connect with, essentially.
All right. Can you see the chat?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I'm just gonna put the email in there. It's mission30@mstofa.net. Just send me an email and I'll forward it to the sheiks in Dallas. All right. And I'll also I'll put the registration form for the temple in there too. All right. But I'll copy you in there so that you can correspond with the sheiks in Dallas.
Okay. I'm about to
and you can take it from there. Islam?
Islam.
All right, cool. Does anybody else have any questions or any statements, anything that you want to bring to the floor?
Hello.
Islam?
Hello.
Peace, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm Stefano.
Peace.
Yeah, I'm living at Orlando. Can I know if I can find a temple at Orlando?
In Orlando?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do the same thing that I just told the guy before you. Mm-hmm. Send an email to mission30@mstofa.net. If you can see the chat, it's in the chat. And then I'll plug you in with the temple in Florida.
I got another question. Like, I'm new in this country. I just have one here in 6 months. My English isn't good. Sometimes I always use the internet to translate something you write on your website to know something. It will be a matter for me to learn.
Okay. What language do you speak? Spanish? Portuguese?
Oh,
Sakpase?
Yeah, Sakpase.
Okay. Do we have some members that's Haitian in Florida?
The only people I know is it makes some show on the internet is more fake.
Yeah. We may have some people in Florida that speak Creole.
Yep. Okay. You see, I can find a temple at Florida.
Okay, so just email that mission30@mstofa.net.
Where I can see the email?
Oh, you can't see the chat? Can you see the chat?
No.
All right, just write it down. Mission30.
Give me 1 second. Hello?
Yeah.
Yep, you see?
All right. MISSION. You write the number 3, number 0.
Number 30.
The @
Accent like?
Like for the email.
Okay.
MST OFA.net.
OFA. That
.net.
ENT. Okay, you say MLSSION 30 a commercial TOFA.int.
Yeah, hello? I think so. MSTOFA.net. It should say that.
Okay, .net.
Like the period NET.
Okay.
If you want, you can text it to him through his phone number.
Oh, it will be better.
Yeah.
Text it for me.
Okay, yeah, just say your phone number out loud and we'll text it to you.
407 715 1154.
Okay, yeah, we'll text it to you after this is over.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, I see we have somebody in Memphis, the M-Town. Please state your name. All right, to the person calling in from Memphis, state your name. If not, we're gonna have to take you out. of the
Gail
chat?
Ship Arundel Ill.
Okay.
Were you able to hear me?
We can hear you.
Islam, she was in earlier, wasn't she?
Yes, I was, and I was trying to get on via the Zoom, and I was kicked out. I don't know why.
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably because maybe you didn't see in the chat where we were asking for your information.
I probably didn't. My children aren't home to help me with it. So
Okay.
I
No
beg your
problem.
pardon.
No problem. All right. So does anybody else have any questions or any statements, anything they want to add or speak on?
Islam. We'll be doing, me and Jackson Bay was discussing that we're starting to do meditation classes just to get everybody, just to kind of build that repetition of meditating. Islam, you can speak with the secretary on that one. Islam.
Yo, I would like to join that. This is Brother Crimmins Jones Bay. So if y'all could put the information in the chat, that would be greatly appreciated.
Islam, when are you planning on doing that?
Islam, I was we just did a test run today or whatever. I ain't you know, it's just we just rapping, and I was just like, hey, you know, I just basically did the meditation I did for the prophet celebration we did in January. Just modified with prayers added, silent prayers, individualized prayers, and then after that, you know, we all just you know the love, you know, I show that. I was thinking about we could do that every Wednesday, man. You know, that'd be more open to everybody. You know what I mean? We'll talk more about that. You know, it was just a spur of the moment thing. We was gonna like, let's try that. He liked this, so I was like, all right, cool. We get everybody in on that, so that way, you know, meditation. And the funny thing, what we had meditated together on was let's just grow in abundance to the temple or whatever, right? And man, a whole bunch of people came today, so it was crazy. I was like, man, so I was gonna, you know, so we can talk about that later, you know, just to get everybody just on the love, truth, peace, freedom principles. I know at the Jones Bay was at the well, everybody was there, Cole, Douglas, or you know, everybody, y'all was there. Y'all still, I think everybody liked it and put everybody in a common, you know, mood. So you know, we could talk about it, you know, later after the class. But I don't want to. We could keep it moving though. Keep the floor open. Islam. We'll talk about it after this.
Islam. If anybody wants to send a donation, just send a Cash App to Moors in America. You put the $sign and then Moors in America. We appreciate that. Any donations. Also, if everybody send us their email, if we are able to post this later on YouTube for the people that came in late, we'll send you the link too, so you could go back and watch the whole thing. We do this every Friday and Sunday at 7 p.m. on the same link or the same number if you called in. All right. Does anyone else have anything they want to add or ask? Now's the time. Because if not, I'm gonna just real quick share the strategy that we have for the census, and then we're gonna go into the closing. So if anybody has any questions, though, feel free to speak up.
Islam, y'all hear me?
Yes.
How you doing? I just wanted to initiate my statement. Islam, love. I work at the NCPC, Philadelphia Community Development Corporation. We do videos every Monday and Monday at 1:30, Tuesday at 6:30. We just talk a lot about you know, embracing our heritage and making sure that everybody understand the information and get themselves trusts, wills, holistic foods, the importance behind all of that, and being able to make sure that we all be able to carry our lineage through our real estate and everything. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure y'all understand that, you know, we out here. I'm a young group. I'm kind of more of an independent. I got a couple other Moors. The young lady I work with, her name is Khadijah. She come out me. We hand out food every Monday and Thursday. Everybody, low income community. Yeah, we just want to spread more of peace and love around the city before. But
right here. You see. Look at that. Look at those.
Nobody bit into it. That's the way it is. No.
Yeah, I just wanted to end my statement right there. You might see my name pop up. I'm about to send a $5 donation over to the Moorish Science Temple right now. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for just handing out the information. I appreciate you. Thank you. Islam.
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 Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. So we're just going to speak real quick on the strategy for the census. And then we're going to go into the closing. Real quick, like I was saying earlier, some of you may have missed that, but we're just speaking on how the term Black or Negro, they used to be Negro, was created to remove us from the family of humans. What you see on the screen, the Negro Law from 1740, people can say this is outdated, but within this law, it says the term Negro is confined to slave Africans. Several other laws and acts were made like with this same type of terminology, just defining Negroes as slave Africans and their descendants, okay? It says in here that it does not embrace the free inhabitants of Africa, such as the Moors or the Negro Asiatics, all right? But we still see this same terminology or this same implication today, like that. In those days, they could just come out and say, hang on, we have some feedback. Somebody needs to go on mute. All right, so in 1740, in the 1800s, they could get away with just saying that basically Negroes are enslaved Africans, right? Today, they have to be more slick. Okay, so they can't just come out and say that. And so the wording is more tricky. And one of the things that we do have is this SF 181, which is a government form from the Office of Management and Budget, where they, for whatever reason, they're the ones that are defining the racial and ethnic terms that the government uses. This is used for the census. It's also used by the CDC and several other government agencies. And in this, you can see that if you just look at this and see what's highlighted, you'll see that American Indian applies to the original people of North, South, Central America, Asian original people of different places in Asia, white original peoples of Europe, Middle East, North Africa, and the Pacific Islander is original peoples of the Pacific Islands, but then Black or African American is a person having origin in any of the Black racial groups of Africa, okay? So it's the only one that's not from an original people, all right? And this matters because they've defined what that means. They've made it something that is nihilus filius, is something that is incapable of having ancestry, okay? It doesn't come, if you're Black and you're trying to like claim to be, the ancient Egyptians, you can't do that because Black doesn't come from any of the original people of the world, legally, all right? And that's what happens when you're not self-defined. I see somebody has their hand raised. Peace.
Peace. So question, so if someone is working at a corporate job and you know how they ask for like what your race is and stuff, and it got Black on there,
mm-hmm.
what should that person do if obviously they haven't really had a name correction and stuff?
Yeah, okay, I'll tell you exactly what to do. Okay, my advice is to join the temple, all right? Then to actually legally like add your elevate to your name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like walk the part of who you say you are. You say you're more, so you're correcting this, and when you go through the name correction, they call it a name change. You go and you tell the judge you're not correcting your name. You're returning to your ways of your ancestors, and that's it. And they're gonna repeat it for you on the record. So that's illegal. That's done on the record. All right. And then you move accordingly, you know, like little things, like when you go and fix your driver's license now, right? Because you're using a license. You go and you take your picture with your headdress on, your fez or your turban, you know, when you don't just tell them to put your El Bay on it, you also, you know, walk the part, you know, and they're not going to say anything because, you know, this, like, they don't mess with religion. You know, you could do it when everybody else can't wear hats and stuff. This is not a hat for you. So you do these things, you walk the walk, you talk the talk. You're a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, you know, which is not just a religion. This is a society that helps our people come back in and reconnect to their ancestry, right? So
Yes.
it's, you know, you're doing this, you go through and do that process. And then like when you're at your job or something like that and you're telling them, well, you know, if they have other where you could write in Asiatic Moorish, which we haven't got to that yet. If they don't, if all you could do is pick from these 5 categories, I mean, I would pick Native American, and if you can write it in, put more. Right?
Okay.
I wouldn't put black no matter what, because they've defined what that means. Okay, and I'm not going to put white either, because this is still, you know, some colorable law type thing that doesn't really apply to us. And even this is going to change. There's a whole movement here, like with people of Middle Eastern descent who are moving to like get this whole thing where it says original people of Europe, Middle East, and North Africa. They're working to get that moved off of there, because there's a lot of people that are Egyptian and these different ethnic categories that don't like being categorized as white. So there's going to be a whole new category probably like after this next census, just for people of Middle Eastern descent. You know, and that's the same thing with us. You know, eventually we do this in numbers, we'll have that too. But I'm just saying, like, for now, just for your job, you know, walk the part, be who you are, step in, come into your society, and then correct all this stuff. Put your El Bay on your name, you know. And I was just saying this like a week or two ago, like, you know, I was somewhere where they're doing a background check and stuff, and then they didn't have this stuff. So I just put Native American, and like the dude's looking at my license, you know, and he sees me with my L on there, my fez on and stuff, and he's not going to say anything. You know, he's a European dude. He's not going to be like, well, I need to change this and put black. He can't do nothing, because I'm not trying to be something that I'm not. It's just he don't know what the hell's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Islam.
Because, yeah, I'm not just, no, I'm not, man. I'm the creator of the civilization, bro. All he knows is something else is going on. Maybe he knew more than that. But
sometimes they be asking for proof.
You know?
Yes. I mean, and I appreciate it. I'm definitely gonna make those steps. Yeah, because I was working at Walmart one time, and I brought up things like that as far as needing the day off for religious purposes, bringing in the documents to prove it. And it was just like, oh, all of a sudden this person is religious or X, Y, and Z. And it's like they wanted proof. Part of them wanted proof of me saying that I'm more, or at the time that I didn't know what to tell them, because they probably weren't going to understand more. So I was like, oh, a Muslim and stuff like that. And they were just still wanting like proof, like either court stuff or some kind of proof. And I was like, dang, you know, that sucks. But I was like, is that the way? Is that what a person will have to do if they choose to work under a corporate entity, you know?
Islam. The temple is your proof. You know, when you come into the temple and you learn the teachings of Noble Drew Ali, you receive certain documents. You receive your nationality card. You receive this information so that if you do run into these situations, you know how to conduct yourself. The Prophet said, speak an intelligent tone. And the European, whether they understand or not, they just have to let you be who you are. And that's the most important thing for us Moorish American Muslims, to be who we are every day, all day. Nobody could take that away from you once you are being who you are. Islam?
Yeah, we have some new documents too. Like if you actually, for some reason, had to show something, like a affidavit of religious reversion and some other things too. But yeah, like that is your proof. Actually coming into the temple, you know, that's what the Prophet set it up for. So like, You know, like technically, you know, probably most of us or all of us should be doing this, but you know, I'm not telling anybody what to do, you know, but yeah, you should. It sounds like you should, because you know, you need to move in accordance, and you know, just come in, be a faithful member, and walk the part, you know, and you know, all of that other stuff will be a lot easier, you know, because you're moving how you're supposed to, versus like what other people are doing online and in the streets, and everyone's doing something different, and people have like, well, you can use this form, you know. It's like, nah, forget all that, man, you know. Just move with the temple. It's a lot easier, and it's just like uniform across the board. This is what we doing in Texas and Florida, and you know, we doing the same thing. And
Islam, another
it's not
thing.
like we running a game or something, you know. We're all doing the same thing, and we legit, like, not faking it. We for real with this.
Islam, another thing. Once you're in the temple, you have leadership. You have sheiks. You know, if you have to deal with any of these things, you have sheiks who will speak up for you. And the sheiks are the ministers, are, you know, in our movement, that they are accredited. They're respected because that's how the prophet set the temple up. So you're not alone once you're in the temple. It's all of us. We all have your back, Islam. So you don't have to do nothing by yourself, is what I'm saying. And that's another thing, like when these Moors start learning stuff online and start purchasing these paperworks and stuff, and then what? You on your own. You have no brothers and sisters, you know, to commune with. You're not attending your meetings. So you just have all this paperwork, you know, and you don't know what to do with it. Islam?
Islam. And I'm gonna say another thing too, like what, just with the chapter we're on today, we were talking about, you know, Egypt, the ancient dominions, showing how it's a worldwide civilization, how our ancestors been over here in America since before the Atlantic Ocean was created. It's like, if you're not a member of the temple, that don't really apply to you, you know, because like, even if we're just like, well, this is just our religion, this is just what we believe, that still carries weight, you know, because nobody can attack that. But then in addition to that, you know, there's records that show that this is true, you know, so we can tie ourselves into that because of this society that the prophet established, you know. So if people are on the outside of that, that stuff don't even apply to them. Like, it was something else I forgot to read, but it's saying, this is from Benjamin, this is from the Atlantic Islands. This is a book called The Atlantic Islands. Some stones have recently been discovered in Hero and Las Palmas. It's in the Canary Islands, bearing sculptured symbols similar to those found on the shores of Lake Superior. So this talking about, they had stones with symbols and sculptures, you know, on them that were found up there in, you know, where the Great Lakes are, right? And so this led M. Berthollet, the historiographer of the Canary Islands, to conclude that the first inhabitants of the Canaries and those of the West were of one race. And then from this Smithsonian report, it says, how comes it that the very high authority, Professor Retzius, and this from 1859, he declares, with regard to the primitive, I can't even pronounce this word, but of America, I entertain a hypothesis still more boldly, namely that they are nearly related to the Gaunches of the Canary Islands and to the Atlantic populations of Africa, the Moors, the Copts, etc., and which he comprises under the name of Egyptian Atlantidae. The color of skin on both sides of the Atlantic is represented in these populations as being of reddish brown. And then it says the barbarians, who are alluded to by Homer, were a race of ancient navigators and pirates called Carians, right? And it's saying that the Carians were identical with the Caribs of the West Indies and the Caras of the Honduras and Guarani of South America. So what this is saying is that basically, because it's connecting the Moors over there in Africa to the indigenous populations here, and it's saying that they were all connected. They're finding the same sculptures and stuff, the same symbols being written on on ancient, stones and stuff that were found up in the Great Lakes and Lake Superior, all the way in the Canary Islands, right? So they're finding this same script, and these people were reddish brown, these were Moors, all right? And so for us, having the Holy Quran and having this information and tying ourselves into that, oh, we already know that. We know that's us, and we can tie ourselves in through that. But if we're not rolling with this, we're on the outside looking in, and we're just trying to connect the dots. And no matter what people call themselves, even if they, got some type of Moorish in the mix, they're still on the outside because it's something that someone else created, because there's a whole bunch of people now that call themselves Moors, but they're not rolling with the prophet. They created their own thing. This is the society that was established for us, and it connects us back into it, and it's recognized and it's legit. And so you got to get with that and move that way to be legit, and to make your life easier as well, so what's real and what's not. And then this is why that stuff that I was reading applies to us. Hearing things like that, seeing things like that. Oh, we already knew that. That's in our holy book. That's in chapter 47. And so that's why I'm saying everybody should get with the temple and move that way, right? Does anybody have any questions about that? Does that make sense? Okay, because trust me, nobody in 1928, 1800s, 1900s, nobody was saying this. Nobody, and especially establishing a body politic. When you look up body politic and see what that is, you see that a body politic is actually a society capable of governing itself. It's actually a nation. So nobody set up a nation for us. Only Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Even up until this day, he's the only one that did it. Nobody reconnected us to the creators of civilization. And nobody was going around teaching all our people that we were Moors and setting up, the economic structure where we're trading, where we have our own grocery stores and all this stuff, and doing it as Moors. Nobody was doing it, just the prophet. That's why he's the prophet. It's legit. And that's why it's the only way out. And that's also how come they don't teach about him to this day. They're not going to mention him on TV or any of that stuff unless we force it and make it happen. They're still scared of us learning about that. All right. And so that's also why the only way out of this, move with the temple. And, as I was saying with this black is still removed from the family of humans. On here, they just say the black racial groups of Africa when everyone else is from an original people. So you don't do anything with black. I don't care if it's the census. I don't care if it's just some little form at the doctor's office or like you were saying at the job, anywhere. No. You know what I'm saying? Is it, yeah, we proud and everything. We love it. But no, not going along with that because we know what you guys define that as. And it's something removed from the family of humans. And it's, a slave status, even still to this day. And that's how come African Americans still have to have their right to vote renewed, every 2 decades. So nobody in here should be put in black. Okay, and so we do advise everyone to participate in the census because as Moorish Americans, we are citizens of the USA. We teach everyone to go on ahead and to identify yourself as a Moor on here. Correcting your name and race, nationality on your census gives the federal government notice of your permanent name and a race, nationality correction. Also, if you don't participate, eventually, a worker will come to try to, count you. And if they're able to ascertain your ethnic, they say race, but if they're able to ascertain your ethnicity, they're going to guess at that too. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is what they were doing in the past, unless they change that. So, if you're not doing it, they're going to just count you as black if they see you, or able to ask neighbors about you or something like that. So like you should, we're not hiding. Like we should announce who we are. And we advise everyone to click on here and on where it says some other race. Everyone should do this. All of so-called African American, we have brothers Haitian on here, so-called Hispanic people, whatever, the Caribbean, right? My wife's from, her family originally from the Caribbean too. Like everyone should click some other race and write Asiatic, skip a space and write Moorish. Okay, by doing this, and remember all of these terms, Moor as an American Indian and more, Asiatic, Moorish, these are all terms that are like hierarchical race codes. So the government already understands and knows what that is. This ties you in as the creators of civilization, believe it or not. All right. And so everyone should do that. And then if you're like many of us who have oral history of being indigenous to the Americas, also check the box that says American Indian and write in Moor. All right. And they have the designation with Moors being an indigenous tribe in the Americas. Okay. So everybody should at least click on that other box and write Asiatic Moors. But also, if you have that connection as being indigenous to the Americas, you should also write that as well. Right. Click Native American and write in Moor. That's it. Trying to zoom out. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Oh yeah. Also, I don't know if there's anybody on here who could be classified as Hispanic, but everybody should put no. By saying that you're Hispanic, that means that the Pope is still, ruling over you. Hispanic means that you are Spanish of Christian culture. And we know that those people are indigenous to the areas and they're of Asiatic Moorish culture. So nobody should put Hispanic. Already talked about how, Black is removed from the family of humans. This is just showing an example. They have hierarchical race codes. This code shows that Moors are recorded as being Native Americans. So when you write Moor on that Native American box, that's why I was saying I could put Native American because I got that too, right? We can claim Africa, we can claim all that. That's why you can put some other race and write in Asiatic Moorish. Okay, and we have legitimate claim to that. Nobody can argue with it. Not really going to go in on all this stuff, but Moors are known to be North and West Africans under Census Code 667. All right, so when you write Asiatic Moorish, boom, that's Africa. We also know that all this is Africa from our perspective. All right, so you can also put that Native American and write in Moor, and you can cover all of that. Okay, but we have legitimate claim to that. All right, and that's what we're advising. Does anyone have any questions on that?
I'm just gonna DM you on IG because I don't want to be taking up too much space from other people to talk.
Okay, cool. Anybody else? All right, cool. So we're gonna go ahead and go into the closing. All right, Brother Jackson Bay, can you read the additional bylaws?
Islam. Additional laws for the North Americans. Hey, can somebody pause? I mean, mute it. Islam. Act 1. Grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses, each said temple must be approved by the Prophet, Noble Jew Ali, before acting upon by any member, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause that member, let it be finance, property, or member to sacrifice, finance, etc., that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under heavy restrictions, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their added meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on a meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid. And if he has money in the bank, He must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift a nation. Act 3 is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able to finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hand, and I have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4, all members, while up making public speeches, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radically against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5, all members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire, and let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out of your Sunday school come the guiders of the nation. Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865, during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism. All right, Brother Cole Bay, can you read the writs? And thank you, Brother Jackson Bay.
Always give honors to our great God Allah, and I also give honors to our prophet Noble Drew Ali, and honors to all Moors listening to tonight. To be proclaimed at every meeting, Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they know that they found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they can take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and the uplifting funds, the ones that paid their divine respects to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine movement. I need finances, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finances so badly as I do in the present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nation of the worlds will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work and in their homes and on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any members that hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turbans and fez, and return to the state where either prophet found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out divine pleas to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and their temple. This is an everlasting movement by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem their people through their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. This is the instructions from your prophet Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefather divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now, but the weak can comprehend it not. At this, the end of times is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali, and that's why many hearts have turned into stone, and many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear. At least they will be confined to their sins. These are the trying hours now, my dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid to the cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine national principles and your temple. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good works. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism. All right. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Also want to thank everybody for sending donations. The Cash App is Moors in America. It's just the $ Moors in America. If anyone's going to send a donation, just Cash App Moors in America. And I just want to thank everyone that sent donations, and we're going to go ahead and close the meeting. Thank you all for coming in. We do this every Friday and Sunday at 7 p.m. If anyone has any questions, you can email us at mission30@mstofa.net. If you're ready to join, let us know. We'll send you a registration form so that you can go ahead and come in, proclaim your nationality, and move with your nation. We're going to go ahead and close out. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Please rise and face the east for the closing prayer. Just put your heels together, feet at a 45-degree angle. 2 fingers up on the right, 5 fingers on the left, and face the east. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers' divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy name, in the 7 Elohim. Amen. All right, that's the end of the meeting. Thank you all. Make sure you come back Friday at 7 p.m.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam. Good meeting.
Islam.
Good meetings.
Thank you.
Islam, peace and
Islam,
love,
peace and
Moors.
love, Moors.
Islam, peace and love.
Peace and love.
Islam, peace and love.
Islam,
Stay
peace
safe.
and love. Stay safe.
Islam, peace and love.
Islam, peace and love.
Islam, peace and love.
Islam, peace and love.
Islam, peace and love.